Welcome back to part 2 of the Renaissance and art study. So, in the first part, we talked about how the Renaissance came to be. We compared Renaissance art to Greek classical and medieval art, and we talked a lot about Leonardo da Vinci. This time, we're going to talk about a few more artists and look at some of their artwork. Hopefully, you enjoy it. Let's get started. Now, let's look at the next person. This is Michelangelo. Michelangelo was known as a painter and a sculptor. And one of the things that he painted that is really incredible is the Sistine Chapel. This is the actual Sistine Chapel. He painted the ceiling. Some people think that he was lying down on scaffolding, but he was more likely, and I think it would be even tougher, more likely he was leaning back, arching his back backwards on scaffolding in order to paint this ceiling. He painted everything that you can see in here. He didn't do it by himself. He had people that helped him. What they would do is he would sketch out cartoons and then they would put them against the wall. Once those cartoons were put against the wall, they would use chalk to make their outlines and then paint those. So again, this is pretty incredible. It's going to take me a second to load because I went closer. I'll add all these resources as well, so you can zoom all the way in on these. And again, if you can imagine painting each one of these sections of the ceiling and the walls are masterpieces by themselves, and he did all of these paintings on one place inside the Sistine Chapel. So again, pretty incredible. And you can still visit this today if you'd like. The next piece of artwork that he did that's really incredible. Oh, actually, before we get to that. So first of all, he had a very interesting relationship with the Pope who commissioned this at the time. And there are some theories that he left some hidden messages. A lot of times there are theories that people left hidden messages in these paintings, which may or may not be true. You got to figure this took a really long time to look at, or sorry, to paint. So maybe he got bored, maybe he did things on purpose, maybe it's just coincidence. And one, if you look over here to the right, this is supposed to be God giving life to Adam, the Bible story of God giving life to Adam, the first man. And if you look at the shape around God and all the people in this shape, it looks a little bit like, some people theorize, a brain, right? It's got kind of the same structure. Even the people look like all the folding parts of the brain, and even this, the brain stem and everything match up fairly perfectly to this. Now, did he do it on purpose? Maybe. Who knows? We'll never know because we don't know. He didn't leave any notes, didn't say that he did it on purpose. But again, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility if you're taking months and months and years to paint something that you wouldn't add some kind of fun stuff in it. The next thing is the Pieta, and this is sculpted out of marble. One of the hardest things to do as an artist when you are drawing or sculpting or anything is to make fabric look like fabric. And this is all carved out of one piece of marble. So the fabric here looks real. This is Mother Mary and Jesus after he is taken off the cross. This is so detailed, it looks completely realistic. And again, this is done out of marble. So watch this video. They get detailed and close up in here, and hopefully you'll be as stunned as I am. The next thing he's known for, maybe the most famous thing, is the statue of David. David is a biblical hero from the Bible. And I put in this picture, even though it's from a different news article, but I wanted to give you he's from head to toe sculpted, and this is the scale of, this is how big this statue is, carved out of marble. So again, I left this in here so you could see just how large this is. And this is probably one of his most, if not the most famous piece. Well, I guess besides the Sistine Chapel, it's probably a toss-up between which is the most famous. I'm not going to show you the video. We're going to move on to the next person, and this person is Raphael. Raphael, all of these guys, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, were all around at the same time. They're all very incredible artists. Kind of cool that they're all hanging out and learning from each other and seeing each other's artwork. One of the pieces of artwork that Raphael is really known for is called the School of Athens. In the School of Athens, this is the actual painting. This is right next to the Sistine Chapel. So in the as the Sistine Chapel is getting painted, you have Raphael painting this at the same time. You can see some of the style is a little bit similar to Michelangelo. He was totally influenced by him, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But this is the part of this whole room that is usually looked at as the most popular, and it's called the School of Athens. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. So one of the things about this painting is, first of all, it employs the same perspective, the 1-point perspective, where everything in the foreground, like the people here in the foreground, are bigger than the people in the background because they're closer to you. It's like when you look at a tree that's far away, it looks tiny, as opposed to a tree that's closer, it looks more like a tree. The other thing about this painting is this does have some, not really hidden things, but he did this not only as a painting to be, renowned. He did this to honor some folks that he, first of all, in this painting, these people represent these different philosophers throughout time and mathematicians and scientists. So these are the names of those scientists. Some you might have heard of them, like Pythagoras, right? Pythagorean theorem. Euclid studied geometry. Ptolemy, we're going to actually talk about him a little bit, studied astronomy. We have Plato, who is known as the father of philosophy, and Aristotle. So first of all, we have all these different scholars in here. Second of all, we have some things that are really interesting. The first thing is this person here, Plato, he also looks a lot like Leonardo da Vinci. And Leonardo da Vinci is looked at as the leader of the Renaissance. And he has made Plato to look a lot like Leonardo da Vinci. Plato is the father of philosophy. So maybe a coincidence, maybe not. The other thing is, if you look over here, and artists did this a lot, if they didn't have subjects, if they didn't have people that they could use to help the subjects to paint, they use themselves. So we got a little self-portrait over here of Raphael. And then finally here, this was done actually after the painting was finished. This was done after Raphael went and saw the Sistine Chapel and was so impressed. This Herculitis here is actually a representation of Michelangelo, and and it might even be a copy of, and not a copy like he was copying and pasting it, but like in tribute, a part of the Sistine Chapel. So there we have some cool things about this School of Athens. Finally, another cool thing that happens here that I haven't talked about is the subjects start to be more about life in general. Paintings from the medieval time were a lot about religion and a lot about the church. Before that, the sculptures were probably made of very prominent, important people, even in Greek classical. But now we're starting to see, but they were always in these positions of, like, they were in a war, they were fighting, or they were at the, doing some game or something like that. Now we start to see paintings of everyday life. This is another painting of Raphael of a marriage. You can see perspective here where the people are small in back, large in front, right? That's very realistic. Again, using 1-point perspective, all of the lines converging on 1 point on the horizon. We have something called humanism, a school of thought that's called humanism happening during this time. And humanism is the philosophy that looks at what humans can do, like the full potential of what human beings can do. And in this case, in painting and sculpting and things like that. So a couple more people that I want to talk about, and then we're going to be done. We have Titian and Botticelli were both artists during this time, so it weren't just those big three that I talked about there. There were plenty of other artists. We also, it's not just painting. We have architecture, and I'm going to go back to the map for this. We have architecture from a man named Brunelleschi. Let's go back to this virtual tour, and I skipped over a couple of these. I will share the tour with you too, and you can see where the Last Supper was painted that we talked about. The Sistine Chapel that we talked about. Right, these places still exist. You can still go visit these places. Now, this one, the Duomo, or the Cathedral Santa Maria del Fiore, this roof was built by Brunelleschi. And that is no small feat. This is still the largest brick-built dome in the world. And it was the largest brick-built dome at the time. Watch the video that goes with this and you will see how incredible this feat was. It wasn't just as easy as laying bricks and making it into a dome. It was very incredible. That's it for the Renaissance Art Study Part 2. Next one coming up, we're going to look at other artists from around Europe. See you next time.